Hi guys, it's Valentina, A Better Belief, and today I'm going to be debunking another motivational quote. I'm not trying to have a go at the author that created the phrase, as he seems very highly regarded and influential in his field, but I find the quote so vague and open to interpretation that often it ends up not really meaning anything, or at least that's what I found. The specific quote I'm talking about is: everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. Really? So what? Do I just watch a couple of horror movies, go on a roller coaster, get really scared a bunch of times, and my most awesome dreams will just magically materialize? I'll tell you one thing. I went down what was for me very steep drop slide in 2018. I did it just to convince my niece to do it after me. Then it was scary for me. Like, this is not really scary for most people, but it was really scary for me. And guess what? At the end of that weekend, life just went back to its normal routine. Everything in my life just went back to what it was like before. By the way, I did that drop slide again 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was even scarier. So facing that fear once didn't work, or twice. I was literally terrified of doing it, so terrified that I almost swallowed my pride and didn't do it. I had to fight against all of my senses, perceptions, and what my body was telling me to be able to do it. I just ended up facing the fear and doing it anyway, because otherwise I would have been, frankly, quite ashamed of myself. And because my boyfriend Lev was there to encourage me, so thanks for that, Lev. And then I had to do it again just before I left, just before we left, just to prove to myself that I could. But the resistance in doing that was huge. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors had to face life-threatening situations on the daily. The types of threat that triggered real fear for one's own survival, like not the symbolic anxiety that we perceive today. And if they were reactive enough to respond to that fear with sufficient promptness, they just got to live another day. And definitely that fear that they had felt and that got them out of trouble didn't land them what they always wanted. And believe it or not, our brain is not that different from theirs. So naturally, the brain has to go past the resistance created by the fear of the unknown, which we are naturally hardwired to feel. And if what we really want to achieve or obtain involves steps that we haven't taken before, and at the idea of which we're afraid to fail, or that backs us, then going past that fear is pretty much non-negotiable. Some of us have a preference for variety, which makes it easier for us to want to try out new things, but then it also makes it harder to stick to them once the dopamine rush is exhausted. But sadly, either way, the feel the fear and do it anyway method doesn't work on its own when it comes to making life-altering choices, if we hope to make them last long term. You also need a number of other things. Number one, planning. If the new steps that you need to take to be able to achieve your goals are unfamiliar or not something that is already ingrained in your brain and physiology, they are not going to happen unless you plan them in, and with some advance, especially if they scare you or vex you in full or in part. Number two, discipline. You need the discipline and the commitment to repeat the new step regularly until your brain starts perceiving it as familiar. For me, as an example, it's creating this content. I'm really not used to it. I'm afraid that it's going to suck. And so I have 30 minutes cut out in my calendar most weekdays to make sure that I make steady progress on the creation and the sharing of these. My brain still resists it with all of its strength because new neural pathways are hard to establish after puberty. However, repetition is the most effective way of doing so in adult life. Number three, mistakes. More often than not, Something new won't work the first time you do it or try it. The video that you are watching right now is probably going to be my third or fourth attempt at filming this without tripping every 2 words or sharing a barrage of nonsense. At this point, very windy, I probably don't need to remind anyone that my first YouTube video absolutely sucked. The aesthetics of it, that is, not the content. The content is brilliant. Go check it out if you don't believe me. Yes, it was quite spectacular, but it was really poorly crafted. And it sucked way more than this one in that respect, but I keep going because time marches on, and the more mistakes I make in a short period of time, the more likely I actually am to finally produce some quality content. Number 4, rejection. Some of you may not like my content. It's a risk that I have to accept before I even start. I can't self-reject before someone else does. You know what? That's okay. I have nothing to prove. I just have a lot of thoughts to share, and I feel that I am becoming rather old to not share them. The last bone I have to pick with the sentence is the way that it starts. Everything you've ever wanted. Really? Do you even know what everything you've ever wanted is? Do you even know what you want right now? If no, it's probably a good idea to work that out first. I honestly don't know what everything I want is, so I prefer to focus on small goals, and even around the things that I'm pretty sure that I want, I'm often cautious because dreams do come true, and sometimes behind the dream that you're wishing to come true are implications that you couldn't possibly predict and that you actually end up not being that fond of. So careful what you wish for. I hope you have an amazing day and rest of your week, and catch you soon. Big love.